Hey, this is Bill. Welcome back to the channel. This is part 3, the last one. Go back and watch 1 and 2 first if you have not. Very quick recap. Odysseus tried to dodge the Trojan War, got caught, and won it with a wooden horse. Then he blinded a Cyclops, bragged about it, and the sea god stretched his journey to 10 years. He has now landed on Ithaca, alone, 20 years late. 600 men down. And a ghost has warned him what happens to war heroes who walk in their own front door. So, this is where the monsters stop and the politics start. Ithaca has not had a working king in 20 years. It has not had a working government either. Here's the detail that tells you everything. The assembly of Ithaca has not been called once since Odysseus left. Telemachus finally calls one, and it is the first meeting of his entire life. A whole generation grew up on that island having never seen a decision made in public. Into that gap walked 108 men, not a mob. Nobles from Ithaca and the 3 islands around it. Every one of them has come to marry the queen. And this is the part people miss. It is not a romance, it is a claim. Marry Penelope and you can argue you are the king of Ithaca. So 108 men are running for office, in the building, armed. They are also eating the estate every day, for years, which is the strategy. Bankrupt the household until the queen has no choice left. And they are doing all of it as guests, in someone else's house. Hold on to that. In this poem, abusing a host is the one crime that always gets punished. Penelope cannot simply throw them out. She has no army, her son is a teenager, and her father-in-law has retired to a farm. She cannot refuse to remarry either. Her own father can order her to. Her only weapon is delay, so she runs the best stalling operation in ancient literature. She announces she will choose a husband the moment she finishes weaving a burial shroud. Nobody can object to that. It would be an insult to the dead. She weaves it every day and quietly unpicks it every night. It works for 3 years. Then one of her own maids tells them, and the delay is over. She is not a patient wife waiting at a window. She is running a siege from the inside, which leaves one obstacle, the son. Telemachus was a baby when his father left. He is now about 20, old enough to inherit, which makes him a problem that has to be solved. He sails off to ask the other kings whether his father is alive. So the suitors put a ship in a narrow strait to ambush him on the way back. They are planning to assassinate the heir to a throne they are all campaigning for. That is not a love triangle. That is a coup with a wedding attached. And the gods work exactly the same way. Poseidon runs the sea, and this whole thing is one father being petty about his son. Athena runs cleverness, and she backs Odysseus because he lies well. That is the relationship. Zeus runs everything and mostly wants the argument to stop. And Athena gets her way by waiting until Poseidon leaves the room, then lobbying Zeus. Even the gods do politics in corridors. The poem finds this completely normal. So Odysseus lands and does not go to the palace. Athena disguises him as an old beggar. He walks into his own kingdom and not one person recognizes him. He goes to his pig herder first, a servant, not a noble. Because before he takes anything back, he needs to know who is still his. So he tells a long, detailed, completely invented life story and watches the reaction. He does this to almost everyone he meets. Different story every time. The pig herder feeds the beggar his own dinner and says nothing bad about his old king. He passes, he gets handed a weapon later. This is a man running background checks on his own household. Then he walks up to the palace and something is lying by the gate. There is a dog on the rubbish heap. His name is Argos. Odysseus raised him from a puppy. Then he left for the war, and the puppy was left behind on the beach. 20 years later, the dog is still there, old, thin, and covered in ticks. Nobody has looked after him since the day his owner left. The disguise has fooled his wife, his son, his nurse, and every noble on the island. The dog lifts his head. He wags his tail. He drops his ears. He is far too weak to stand up. Odysseus cannot say a word because the disguise has to hold. So he turns his face away and wipes one tear where nobody can see it. And the dog dies. Right there. Having waited 20 years just to see him. It is 8 lines long. It is the most famous dog in all of literature. Inside, the beggar begs from the men, eating his own food. They mock him. One throws a stool at him. Another kicks him as he walks past. He takes all of it. He is counting. Because every man who abuses a beggar is breaking the guest rule in front of a witness. He's not collecting insults. He is collecting justification. Then his old nurse washes his feet and feels a scar on his thigh. A wild boar gave him that scar when he was a boy. She knows instantly. He grabs her by the throat and tells her to keep her mouth shut. Then Penelope announces a contest which may or may not be a coincidence. String my husband's bow, shoot through 12 axe heads, and you can have me. Every suitor tries. They warm the bow with fat. Not one of them can bend it. Which is the point. It is not a wedding contest. It is a test only one man can pass. The beggar asks for a turn. They laugh at him. He strings it in one movement, the way a musician tunes an instrument. That comparison is in the original. A harp string, not a war cry. Then he shoots straight through all 12 axes without standing up. Then he steps into the doorway and tips the arrows out onto the floor and says that target is finished. Now for another one, he shoots the loudest suitor through the throat mid-drink. The doors are already locked. The weapons have already been moved out of the hall. His son, his pig herder, and his cow herd are standing with him. So is Athena. This is not a duel. Nobody is challenged. Nobody is offered terms. It is a room with one exit, and the man holding the exit has a bow. 108 men, none of them leave. He does not kill them because they wanted his wife. He kills them because they ate his house, insulted a beggar, and moved on his throne. And then there is the part people do not talk about. 12 maids had slept with the suitors. Several of them had no real choice about it. They are made to carry out the bodies and scrub the floor first. Then they are hanged in the courtyard. The poem compares them to birds caught in a net and then simply moves on. It is not treated as a crime. It should sit badly with you. It sits badly with me. A purge does not stop at the men who are armed. It never has. Then comes the last test, and Penelope is the one running it. She still does not believe he is her husband, even after everyone else does, which is sensible. A stranger has just killed every noble on the island, so she tells a servant to move their bed out of the bedroom for him. Odysseus loses his temper instantly because he built that bed himself, around a living olive tree still rooted in the ground. The tree is the bedpost. The bedroom was built around the tree. It cannot be moved by anybody unless somebody has cut the tree down. Only 2 people in the world ever knew that. She was not checking whether he was alive. She was checking whether he was him. The man who lies to everybody gets caught out by the one person as clever as he is. And Athena holds the sunrise back to make that one night longer. Now the ending, which is famously abrupt and makes complete sense politically. He has just killed 108 nobles from 4 different islands. Every powerful family in his kingdom now has a dead son and a blood claim. They arm up and march on the farm where he is hiding with his father. A war hero comes home, wins, and immediately starts a civil war. That is the real problem. There is no political solution to this. Somebody has to lose. So the poem does not find one. A god walks in and ends it by force. Athena shouts once, everybody drops their weapons, and she makes them forget the grievance, and imposed amnesty. Forced forgetting so the island can function again. 3,000 years old, and it is still the least satisfying way real conflicts end. There is one more prophecy, though, and it is the strangest thing in the poem. He has to walk inland carrying an oar until he meets someone who has never seen the sea. Someone who asks him why he is carrying a winnowing fan on his shoulder. There he plants the oar in the ground and finally makes peace with the god of the sea. And then death will come for him out of the sea, gently, in a comfortable old age. The man who spent 20 years fighting the sea has to walk until the sea means nothing. So how much of any of this is real? Odysseus is a character, no birth record, no grave, no evidence he ever existed. But Troy is real. It is a hill in western Turkey called Hisarlik. There are at least 9 cities stacked on top of each other on that hill. One layer burned around 1180 BC with sling stones and unburied bodies in the streets. Hittite tablets from that era name a city called Wilusa and a king called Alexandru. Wilusa sounds a lot like Ilios. Alexandru sounds a lot like Alexandros, which was Paris's other name. That is not proof of the poem. It is proof somebody was remembering something real, and Homer may not have existed either. In the 1930s, a scholar recorded illiterate singers in the Balkans. They improvised hour-long epics live, using stock phrases as building blocks. Wine dark sea. Rosy-fingered dawn. Those are not decorations, they are gear teeth. So the Odyssey was probably sung by hundreds of people for centuries before anyone wrote it down, which is why it lasted. It is not really about a boat. It is about a man who is very good at winning, coming home to find that winning is the easy part. A kingdom with nobody in charge? A wife holding it together with a lie? A son who grew up without a father, and a dog who waited anyway. 3,000 years and we are all still passing it along. Go and read it, or go and watch it, and then come and argue with me in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a new one. This has been Bill. See you in the next video.